Welcome to another edition of Dan Factoids, in which we answer questions that divers have that are relevant to their fitness to dive, diving safety, or medical conditions. In this case, we have a diver from another region, and they have paid us a wonderful compliment by saying that the materials that we put out are of value to them. So thank you very much for that. And asking about what they should do, because they have already had 3 events of decompression illness before PFO was discovered and this was closed. And now the question is, what should they do in terms of returning to diving? Well, that's not a simple question to answer, because we don't know to what extent the incidents actually left residual damage. In other words, if after each case of decompression illness there was full recovery and they have now closed the PFO, well then theoretically, once the PFO is confirmed to be closed, which should be done by ultrasound, typically 3 to 6 months after the procedure, one should theoretically be able to return to diving. But that would only be possible if there are no PFO DCI related incidents that have left residual damage that in and of themselves are contraindications to diving. So I think it's very important to make sure that the PFO is closed, but also that the damage that may have occurred as a result of the PFO and diving, that in and of itself is not a contraindication to diving. But once a PFO is closed, many divers have returned back to diving. And if you just Google Divers Alert Network and PFO, you will find a wealth of information. In fact, workshops that are on PFO and diving that give very, very good advice, of which the best advice is, if you avoid bubbles altogether, a PFO is irrelevant. In other words, if you were to, for instance, limit your diving to less than 18 meters or no more than 18 meters and dive on a fairly high nitrox mixture, which is still safe as far as the oxygen is concerned, you won't have decompression bubbles, and therefore a PFO is actually irrelevant. And that would be an example of changing your diving behavior, as your question in fact has asked. So I hope that gives you some guidance as to where you can get information and how you might be able to change your diving in order to account for the history of a PFO. Thanks for asking the question. And for the rest of you, until next time, safe diving.